Hello, it's Andrew once again with another video game console unboxing, and this time we have a console that happens to be a clone, a Famiclone, or a clone of the NES. And let me explain a little bit more. We have the Generation NEX from the now defunct Messiah Games. So let's have a look, and I will say this is what I'm going to refer to as a faux unboxing, as I have owned this for a while. And I repackaged it the best of my ability, and I'm showing it to you now so you can see what it would have looked like when I opened it the first time. Now, I kind of feel for retro video game stores and GameStop when you see the job that I did wrapping these cords back up inside the box, and I'll show you that in a second as well. But what we have here is a really pretty cool package here. It's a clear plastic box with a box underneath, and the console on top, which you can clearly see is inspired by the Nintendo Entertainment System, which is incredible in my opinion, just because I love the style of the original NES. So let's open this plastic outer box here and have a look at what comes inside. For safety's sake, I'm going to turn it on its side. Allow it to slide out just like so. And we will take what is a very cool idea, but it does get scuffed. And it looks a little bit strange, but it ties it all together nicely in the packaging. We'll put this aside and have a look at just the console for a moment. Again, very, very cool design. Great styling here. We have two controller ports here that are used to fit NES controllers or the Generation NEX controller. The choice is yours, which is very nice to have the option, because I know a lot of people like to use the original hardware, the original controller, so you have that option here. And you also will be able to see what a Generation NEX controller looks like as well, which is pretty cool, but there are a few drawbacks as well. We'll get to that in a moment. On top, like the grooves here, you have your power. Can you see that? I don't know if you can because of the glare, but it may be a little bit out of the light anyway. So we have a power button here, reset button here, and on top we have a Famicom slot, which is very nice. So you can play all your Japanese games. And on the front, to simulate sticking the NES cartridge inside, and that may be even harder to see due to the fact that it is way, way inside there. I apologize for being all over the place with showing you this. But this is where the NES games will fit and go, and I will show you that in a moment as well. But let's open up the other piece to this fun puzzle, the Generation NEX red box, bringing gaming back to life. I didn't know that it died. Open it up, and here is my wrapping job. Woo! Actually, this is the only thing I didn't twist tie up with things that I got off of another console that I opened up actually on this show. This is actually the Messiah branded Generation NEX AC adapter. Gotta have that. It's small in size, although I do wish instead of going in this way, it could go in this way so that it fits off to the side of a power strip and you're not taking up the plug underneath it or the plug above it on a power strip, but that's just a minor gripe. So AC adapter. AV cables, composite video out, composite audio, gotta love that. A big, big plus. And you also have S-video here as well, but I don't believe the console supports that. So whatever AV cables come with it you could use, and you can also find whatever AV cables you'd like. I'll show you the back of the console in a second as well. And another really neat, this might be the reason to own one of these, which sounds strange. But as you can see, this is fit in a sleeve like a Nintendo Entertainment System game cartridge would. Pull it out and you see that it is the instruction manual for the console, which is really neat. And it is drawn out kind of like a comic book would be, which I love. A lot of love went into this. You can tell people really cared about what they were doing when they made this, in some ways. And so you have all of your console rules here, what you have. You can see that you just have AV in or composite video in, no S video. I was wrong about that. And I know I'm going backwards through here, but just to give you an idea. Well, what else is neat here is they have a video game rarity guide, which I'm not really big into what's rare and what's worth what necessarily, but this is a list to show you for NES, as you can see here with the tabs, a whole list of NES games that were released. So you have a comprehensive list here of NES, a comprehensive list of NES accessories, which is very cool. There are so many things on here. We're talking first party, third party, all of the peripherals you could have bought for your Nintendo are in this book, which is way cool. You have a Famicom section here, so you can see all the Famicom games that were released. Very cool there as well. And we have a top 100 rare section here. Again, not my cup of tea, because the rarity thing's not all that big of a deal, except for the fact if I was going to buy a game and it's just way out of my league price-wise, then I'm going to stay away. But I'm not worried about what they're worth to me. But again, you have that here as well. Still in the top 100 value. That is a cool book, and it's all drawn up just like it. Even the faux screws here on the back. Do not attempt to auction as a rare game cartridge, so you can't do that with here. So this is not going to auction as an actual cartridge. Do not let your friend use as coaster. Do not submerge in water. Do not use two-level table. Do not clean with benzene, thinner, alcohol, or other such solvents. So that was the one of the tidbits in the back of this cartridge that are kind of tongue-in-cheek, but the last one is actually on a Nintendo cartridge, which is cool because you would not want to clean this with such solvents. Alright, last thing in here is the controller, and then I'll show you the back of the console, and we'll hook it up and we'll play it for a bit. This is the Generation NEX controller. It does come with one. I do have a second one, and they made an aftermarket wireless controller as well, which works, again, I'll show you on the system how those would work. But this is the controller. Strangely enough, and if you can see that, this is not modeled after a Super Nintendo controller as one might think. We have our B button, A button, but up here we have select and start, strangely enough. And even more peculiar than the placement of the start and select buttons, you have shoulder buttons, and you definitely aren't going to be able to see this because it's not written on them, but these also function as B and A. Really odd. Really odd. And then here we have turbo and a slow motion. So you have the NES, what is that called? The turbo controller for the NES had the turbo buttons above it or below the A and B button, kind of like that. You press that and then the button you want to make turbo, and it would make, you know, Mega Man's blaster blast 3 at a time instead of 1 at a time. It's kind of cool. And your D-pad here is most akin to what I would consider like a Sega Genesis. So, pretty cool. Not bad. And then, of course, you have your buttons here, and the buttons themselves are, they don't really give you any physical tactile response to let you know that it's been pressed. You just kind of have to get used to using them. They're a little bit squishier than I like. They're definitely a lot squishier than the NES controllers originals, but you can use an NES controller. The start and select buttons, strangely enough, are closer to the way I like buttons when you press them than the actual A and B button. So, a little bit weird. Still haven't found a use for using A and B at the top unless you're playing Tetris or something of that sort, but whatever. Console itself, really quickly. I said we would talk about some attributes other than the cartridge slots. We have this wireless on and off. This is not Wi-Fi, this is wireless for the controllers, and you can see the little indicator light right here. You turn this on, you see the indicator light, and you turn on your wireless controllers, which I do not own. You can buy those separately. And you can see that they're hooked up and that they are working, and it will play on the game system, which is pretty cool. From what I've heard, there's mixed reviews on whether you actually would like those or not. I don't know. Some people say they're pretty cool because you can't sit ways back from the system and they work okay. Some people say they just are atrocious as far as how they perform, so it's not worth the added convenience of not having to be plugged up to the system. So, to each his own. On the back, here are your AV composite video and audio here, and where your adapter plugs in on the back for AC power or DC power here. Or it says used with AC adapter, and has the number on there, which is nice. So if you lose it, you can find another one for it. I would assume at like a Radio Shack or something of the like. Before we finish this video up, though, really quickly, I do want to show you how these cartridges fit into these slots, which is quite easy in my opinion. I know there's been some complaints online on other reviews of how they're tough, especially NES, but the Famicom, not hard at all. Fits right in as you would expect it to, and comes right out as you would expect it to as well. Now here's the one that people say is tricky. We have our Monster Party on NES and our Generation NEX. Slide the cartridge in and it pops in. That's great. A lot of people complain that this is tricky to get back out, and in some ways it can be, but let me clear this aside and show you how it can be done in a way that's not too awfully tough and it doesn't jostle the system around too much. If it's sitting on a shelf, all you have to do is place your fingers over the top here and just kind of wiggle a bit, and out it comes. Not bad. So, a lot of complaint for nothing in my opinion. Again, the game goes right in, easy as pie. The game slides out. As long as you put just a little bit of pressure with your hand on top, hold the console in place, out comes the game. No problem at all. I have played on clone consoles where the games are incredibly tough to get out, and when I heard complaints about this one, I really couldn't believe it because it's just not that challenging. So, there you have it, the Generation NEX. I'll show you a brief bit of this system hooked up and how it works and what it looks like and some of the drawbacks of it being a clone console in the next video. So thank you for tuning in.